Hi guys, welcome to this week's Extreme Bible Story. As you can see, we're indoors this week because I wanted a more controlled environment because I really want to test my special effects team. Now, I know from the comments you've been putting on in the past that you've been really impressed with the different special effects and CGI that we've been using. We haven't really been using CGI, but special effects, okay? And my team are ready, aren't you boys?
Yes.
Yeah.
As you can see, they're really enthusiastic. So we're going to carry on with our story of Moses. Moses part 2, okay? Really testing the special effects, as I've already said. Moses was found in the bulrushes, and he grew up in the palace of Pharaoh. Well, he grew up to be a strong young man, and he was walking through the construction site one day, and he saw an Egyptian master actually beating a Hebrew slave. Now, Moses realized there was something different about him, and he got so angry about this that he actually intervened, and he actually killed the Hebrew master. He realized that he'd need to flee because he was going to get into so much trouble because he'd saved the life of this Hebrew slave. And he went into the wilderness. It was in that wilderness that he ended up becoming a shepherd, looking after sheep. One day, during this wilderness wandering, Moses came across something amazing. He came across a bush that was burning. So we've got a box of matches and a twig. And seriously, that's... Anyway, the bush was burning. And it didn't actually burn up. Special effects. It didn't actually burn up, okay? And then Moses heard the voice of God. And the voice of God said to him, Moses, I want you to go back to Egypt. I want you to rescue my people because they're actually your people as well. Moses first argued a little bit and said, well, I can't go. But in the end, he decided that he would listen to God and he would go back to Egypt. He went back to Egypt and he went to see Pharaoh and he said, Pharaoh, I've got a message from God. You have to let the Hebrew slaves go. Now, Pharaoh wasn't about to go, yeah, go on then, that's fine. Because they were free labor. They were free labor. You didn't have to pay for anyone to build anything. None of the Egyptians were building anything. He was using the Hebrews. So Pharaoh said, no. Moses said, if you don't, then God is going to visit you with 10 plagues. Pharaoh still said, no. So the plagues began. Now what we decided to do to try and paint the picture of what these plagues were like, we're going to create them right now in this room. On me, sat on this seat. So here we go. The first plague that happened. Pharaoh got up the next day and something had changed in the water. Now thinking of water, I'm getting really thirsty doing this. So have we got a glass of water I could have? Yeah, but it's empty. Can I? Oh, seriously? I'm going to pour it myself?
Yeah.
Right, pour the water myself. What? There's no water, it's blood! You can't give a load of vampires! Oh, God. Just special effects team. Anyway, all the water turned to blood. Oh, God, that's really fun. Salty. Moses went back to Pharaoh and said, Pharaoh, if you let God's people go, then the water will go back to normal. Pharaoh went, no. So Moses said, okay, have it your way. And then the next plague that came along was suddenly the land of Egypt was covered in frogs. Frogs. Freddo frogs. Now, it wouldn't have been so bad if they were covered in Freddo frogs because they made of chocolate. But they weren't. They were covered in frogs. Moses went back to Pharaoh and said, Pharaoh, let God's people go. Again, Pharaoh said no. So, suddenly, the whole land of Egypt was cut. Oh, no, you haven't. With lice. Seriously? You've let lice into the lounge? Oh, boys, man. I know, this is ridiculous. Oh, gosh. Moses went to Pharaoh and he said, Pharaoh, let God's people go. Again, Pharaoh wouldn't. So the next plague came along. and there was a buzzing sound in the air. Flies! There were flies everywhere. Oh, in this house, jumbo jets. Flies. All right, enough of the flies. Oh, gosh. Flies. Again, Pharaoh said, no, I'm not letting God's people go. So Moses says, okay, here comes the next one. And sadly, all the livestock suddenly got ill. All the
Dad,
Yes?
Derry the donkey didn't make it.
Derry the donkey's dead.
I'm sorry.
Poor Derry the donkey. He was part of our livestock. See what I did there? All the livestock in the land of Egypt died. Moses again went to Pharaoh and said, let God's people go. And Pharaoh said no. So the next one came along. I need makeup for this one because it was a plague of boils. It's like watching a series of Doctor Who, isn't it? Look at the makeup effects in here. Years he's trained for this. And all the Egyptians were covered in boils or cocoa butter, depending which way you look at it. I literally smell like a bar of dairy milk. They were covered in boils. And still, Pharaoh wouldn't let God's people go. So, the next one came hail. There are no words to describe the humiliation I feel and the embarrassment. I'm sorry for you having to watch this. Hail came along and still, no, he wouldn't let God's people go. So next one, oh, actually, do you know what? I'm feeling really hungry. Has anyone got my sandwich?
Yeah, here it is.
Locusts. Locusts ate everything, all the crops, all the land, everything was covered in locusts and there was no food left. And then still, Pharaoh wouldn't let God's people go. So Moses said, there's another one coming, Pharaoh. And all the land went dark. Seriously, that's the best you could do. You knock the lights off. Literally.
It's dark now, isn't it?
Well, I can't see anything, can I?
Really?
All the land went dark. At least this has got rid of the cocoa butter. Can we have the light back on, please? Thanks. All the land went dark. And still Pharaoh said no. So the final plague was coming. And we're not going to actually joke about this one. Because the final plague was the one that turned Pharaoh. Moses says, if you don't let God's people go, then every firstborn child will die. Pharaoh still refused. Pharaoh didn't believe Moses. Now Moses gives strict instruction to the Hebrew people. He said you need to sacrifice a lamb. You need to put the blood of the lamb on the top of the door and down the sides. And then you need to just stay in your houses. That night, God sent an angel that passed over all the land of Egypt. And every house that it saw that had the blood on the top of the door and down the posts, the angel passed over. But in every other house that didn't, in the Egyptian houses, the firstborn child died. That morning, the cries and the sorrow in Egypt was incredible. Pharaoh got up and Pharaoh said to Moses, take them. Take the people. I've had it. I've put up with all the other plagues, but this is the final straw. And he let God's people go. Now next week, we're going to find out that Pharaoh didn't quite end there. Pharaoh actually ended up changing his mind. And we're going to talk about one of the greatest miracles in the Old Testament and how God saved 3 million-ish people with one act at a very, very, very big sea. And we're going to try and recreate the parting of the Red Sea. But anyway, it's a big thanks from me for you listening and watching and putting up with with the rubbish special effects. I'm not going to lie to you, but you know, they're trying. What can I say? So see you next week, guys. Bye.